Welcome back to our channel, where we dive deep into the heart of Genoa City's most gripping dramas. Today is a beautiful day to unravel the complex, emotionally charged narratives that keep us glued to our screens. The atmosphere surrounding the Newman family has grown suffocatingly dense, thick with the kind of palpable tension that precedes a devastating storm. At the center of this gathering tempest is Nick Newman, a man whose golden boy exterior has been entirely eroded by the insidious, creeping darkness of severe opiate addiction. The legacy he once carried with effortless grace has morphed into a crushing burden, pulling him further into a terrifying abyss of dependency and despair. The sheer gravity of the situation reaches a boiling point when Victor Newman, the indomitable patriarch whose authority has shaped the very foundation of Genoa City, decides that enough is enough. Victor operates on absolute control, and witnessing his son spiral out of it is a reality he refuses to accept passively. He orchestrates a brutal, uncompromising confrontation, forcing Nick to look directly at the scandalous reality of his actions. The heavy mahogany walls of the Newman Empire bear witness to a father desperately trying to wrestle his son back from the brink, using the only language he knows: tough love, unyielding ultimatums, and an iron-fisted demand for compliance. Victor meticulously strips away every excuse, leaving Nick entirely exposed to the glaring truth of his substance abuse. Stripped of his psychological defenses and denied the chemical escape he so desperately craves, Nick's reaction is nothing short of visceral and terrifying. The physical and psychological manifestations of fentanyl withdrawal seize his body with a violent, unforgiving grip. He loses all semblance of control, his composure shattering into a million jagged pieces as the agony of the craving overwhelms his central nervous system. The withdrawal brings forth a primal, guttural rage, resulting in violent outbursts and agonized screaming that echo through the halls, painting a harrowing picture of a man entirely possessed by his addiction. The sweat, the uncontrollable tremors, and the sheer panic in his eyes reveal a vulnerability that is deeply disturbing for anyone forced to witness the dismantling of his former self. The depth of this storyline is further illuminated by the chilling insights from the show's head writer, who recently offered a sobering perspective on Nick's harrowing journey. For audiences who watched Nick flatline, the natural assumption was that the clinical death was the absolute rock bottom, the definitive turning point that would spark a miraculous recovery. However, the narrative dispels this comforting illusion with a heavy dose of reality, asserting that the battle against addiction is far from over and that the true bottom may still be waiting in the dark. The storyline refuses to insult the intelligence of its viewers with a sudden, magical epiphany where Nick simply wakes up cured. Instead, the upcoming arcs promise a grueling, non-linear descent into the labyrinthine complexities of recovery. This unwavering commitment to authenticity elevates the narrative, transforming it from a standard soap opera trope into a profound exploration of human frailty. The writers emphasize that even as Nick actively confronts his addiction, victory is never guaranteed. The insidious nature of opiate dependency means that every single day is an exhausting battlefield, and the specter of relapse will constantly hover over his every decision. In the real world, recovery is an agonizingly slow, deeply flawed process filled with heartbreaking setbacks, self-deception, and monumental struggles. And the creative team is dedicated to reflecting that harsh reality on screen. Nick's journey is not a straightforward path to redemption, but rather a treacherous climb out of a deep trench where the dirt constantly threatens to pull him back under. The psychological scars of Nick's recent near-death experience loom exceptionally large over his current state of mind. Being clinically dead, experiencing the terrifying cessation of his own heartbeat, has left an indelible mark on his soul. The sheer fragility of his existence has been brutally exposed, reminding him that the line between life and death is terrifyingly thin and easily crossed. This lingering trauma complicates his recovery, as the memories of slipping into the void battle against his desperate, chemical-induced desire to numb the overwhelming pain. The overdose was not just a physical collapse, it was a profound spiritual crisis that shattered his perception of his own invincibility, leaving him to navigate the terrifying realization that he almost permanently abandoned his children and his legacy. The collateral damage of Nick's addiction extends far beyond his own personal suffering, inflicting a deep, collective trauma upon the entire Newman family structure. Watching a beloved son and brother overdose, witnessing the horrifying moments as he hovered between life and death, has left Victor, Nikki, and Victoria emotionally scarred. Their profound terror has rapidly mutated into a fierce, highly protective anger. Family members are furious, harboring a deep-seated resentment that Nick allowed himself to fall so far, jeopardizing not only his own life, but the emotional stability of everyone who loves him. This anger serves as a complex defense mechanism. a desperate attempt to assert control over a chaotic situation that has left the most powerful family in Genoa City feeling utterly helpless and vulnerable to tragedy. Adding a layer of agonizing irony to the situation is the identity of the individuals who pulled Nick back from the precipice of death. The fact that Nick owes his continued existence to Matt Clark, a historical monster who has caused immeasurable trauma to the family, and Phyllis Summers, a woman currently embroiled in a bitter corporate war with the Newmans, is a bitter pill that Nick is struggling to swallow. The psychological torment of being indebted to his absolute worst enemies fuels his rage and severely complicates his healing process. The disgust he feels toward his saviors is palpable, twisting his gratitude into a toxic resentment that further destabilizes his fragile mental state. It is a cruel, mocking twist of fate that the very people he despises the most are the ones who granted him a second chance at life. Yet, within this suffocating darkness, a surprising and deeply moving silver lining has begun to emerge: the evolution of the relationship between Nick and his brother, Adam Newman. Historically fraught with intense rivalry, bitter betrayal, and deep-seated animosity, their dynamic is undergoing a profound and beautiful transformation. Adam, a man who has intimately navigated his own dark psychological landscapes and questionable choices, possesses a unique capacity to understand the demons currently tormenting Nick. This shared proximity to darkness allows Adam to offer a type of unconditional, non-judgmental support that the rest of the family simply cannot provide. Through the crucible of this addiction crisis, the historical barriers between them are burning away, forging a genuine, resilient fraternal bond that may ultimately be the anchor Nick needs to survive his recovery. The inevitable climax of this intense family intervention is the harrowing journey to the rehabilitation center. The decision is finalized, the patriarch's ultimatum is enforced, and the physical act of transporting Nick to a treatment facility becomes a somber, emotionally devastating procession. The heavy silence in the vehicle, punctuated only by the unspoken fears of what lies ahead, underscores the immense gravity of the moment. Handing Nick over to the care of medical professionals is a necessary surrender of control for the Newman family, a terrifying acknowledgement that their immense wealth and power cannot cure the disease ravaging his mind. The doors of the rehab center represent both a beacon of desperate hope and a terrifying unknown, marking the beginning of a grueling isolation where Nick must finally face himself. While the family's focus is intensely directed at Nick's survival, the sheer volume of stress is exacting a terrifying physical toll on the Newman matriarch, Nikki. The agonizing emotional labor of watching her son self-destruct is manifesting in severe, debilitating headaches that threaten to completely incapacitate her. Sharon Newman, observing the alarming deterioration of Nikki's physical well-being, gently suggests that these agonizing episodes are likely stress-induced migraines, a direct physical reaction to the psychological warfare she is enduring. However, the shadow of her multiple sclerosis always looms large in the background, making every neurological symptom a source of profound, existential anxiety. Nikki's body is screaming under the weight of the family's collective trauma, serving as a stark reminder that the damage of addiction ripples outward. Amidst this physical and emotional agony, a profoundly complex and unexpectedly poignant interaction occurs between Nikki and Phyllis Summers. The historical animosity between these two women is legendary, marked by decades of betrayal, corporate warfare, and bitter personal vendettas that have scarred them both. Yet, in the wake of Nick's near-fatal overdose, the battle lines are momentarily suspended. In a moment of incredible vulnerability and maternal grace, Nikki approaches Phyllis, swallowing her immense pride to offer a sincere, heartfelt expression of gratitude, thanking the woman who is actively trying to dismantle her husband's empire for saving her son's life requires a monumental emotional effort. This brief cessation of hostilities highlights the transcendent power of maternal love, proving that when a child's life is on the line, hatred can be eclipsed by relief. Watching this storyline unfold has been an incredibly raw and deeply affecting experience, one that resonates on a profoundly emotional level and lingers long after the screen fades to black. As an observer of these characters' journeys, seeing a legacy pillar like Nick Newman stripped of his invulnerability and reduced to such a desperate, agonizing state is genuinely heartbreaking. There is a palpable heaviness in the air during these scenes, a suffocating tension that makes it difficult to even breathe as the tragedy unfolds. The writers are handling the brutal realities of addiction with a level of uncompromising honesty that is both terrifying and absolutely necessary. It evokes a profound sense of empathy, not just for the addict, but for the family members who are forced to watch the person they love drown in plain sight. This narrative courage to explore the darkest corners of human vulnerability is what makes the drama so compelling. It forces us to confront our own fears about the fragility of life. As the heavy doors of the rehabilitation center close behind Nick, sealing him within a world of clinical recovery and grueling self-reflection. The Newman family is left to navigate the shattered remnants of their reality. Will Nick possess the internal fortitude to endure the agonizing process of detoxification? Or will the psychological demons of his past pull him back into the abyss before his healing can truly begin? Furthermore, with Nikki's health visibly crumbling under the immense pressure of her son's crisis and her husband's relentless machinations, one must wonder how much more the Newman matriarch can withstand before her body completely collapses. The battle lines are drawn, the stakes have never been higher, and the true cost of survival is only just beginning to reveal itself to the residents of Genoa City. Stay tuned, because the fallout from this devastating chapter is guaranteed to change the landscape of this town forever.